Hello there, people of the internet. I am out here with my Hi-Point high-tower carbine. This right here is a bullpup carbine. It's a Hi-Point firearm and basically a high-tower chassis. These are really cool. They're not overly expensive. It was fun. I've made a couple of videos about this thing, I believe, but I haven't brought it out in a while, and I figured I'd go ahead and bring it out for today. This is chambered in 45 ACP. The reason why I decided to go with this is, well, you'll see later on in the video, but we're not actually talking about the high-tower Hi-Point carbine system. We're talking about the 45 ACP cartridge. I want to talk about and have a discussion with you guys as to whether or not the 45 ACP cartridge is legitimately and genuinely obsolete. There are a good number of factors. The arguments that a lot of people make, they make the argument that this right here is a very powerful round with a lot of stopping power. In comparison to the 45 ACP, a lot of people compare it to 9mm. 9mm in its base form is, of course, a lot weaker than your 45 ACP just because there's a lot less mass, a lot less energy being dumped onto target with a standard 9mm. However, technology changes. We have gotten so good with cartridge manufacturing technology and the propellants that we use inside of our rounds that we send downrange, be it for whatever purpose that we're using it for. The technology and the infrastructure that we've built these cartridges upon has gotten so good to the point where there is a good amount of 9mm ammunition that delivers just as much energy out there as a 45 ACP will. So the argument of power is not a legitimate argument anymore. Maybe in the 1980s it was a legitimate argument, probably in the 1990s as well. But like I said, technology changes, and the velocities and the types of ammunition that 9mm is able to reach nowadays, just due to the bullet design and the propellant design and etc., etc., the amount of energy being transferred is very similar to the 45. Not only that, but you can carry quite a few more rounds of 9mm in your magazine than you could a 45 at the same size magazine. So you can carry more 9mm ammunition that delivers the same amount of energy down on target. 9mm is a lot less expensive too, especially in comparison to your 45 ACP specialty rounds like your plus P plus and whatnot. Those 45 ACP rounds can definitely get quite expensive in comparison to your 9mm rounds, which deliver relatively the same amount of energy down on target, but at a fraction of the cost. Not only that, but you can have many more rounds inside of your magazine. So far, it sounds like 45 ACP is getting definitely the short end of the stick. Now, it used to be that there were a lot of guns over here in the United States that were chambered in 45 ACP, and there still are. But the vast majority of them have been chambered in 9mm. So the commonplace of the 45 ACP cartridge, that was not a correct sentence, what I just said, but I'm going to stick with it. The commonplace factors of the 45 ACP are no longer what they used to be, which is another attribution as to why this cartridge may potentially be considered to be obsolete. It's a heavier, bulky cartridge. It used to be quite powerful, but now our smaller, lighter weight cartridges that we can carry much more of in the same volume, all of those factors combined really points towards this thing not being up to modern standards. There's something flying around over there and I don't know how I feel about that. But there are some good things about the 45 ACP, and a lot of people out there who talk about the good things of the 45 ACP are the same people that argue between the 7.62 by 39 and the 223. Do you want a lot of mass, or do you want speed and ability to touch out to a fair distance? 45 ACP drops like an absolute rock out to a distance, even in comparison to, say, a 9mm, but that's just because the bullet is much heavier. The heavier bullet used to mean a lot of energy dumped on range, but the velocity that our 9mm has climbed up to makes up for that difference. However, slow can oftentimes be useful. 45 ACP delivers a lot of energy downrange, and whereas 9mm requires velocity, velocity oftentimes makes supersonic noise. So 45 ACP, the one place it shines is in suppressed weaponry, which is why I brought out this high point, high tower carbine. This right here would be a really fun gun to suppress. I'm not going to suppress it just because I don't want to be put on any kind of registry, but this right here would be a very fun gun to suppress just because it is chambered in 45 ACP, especially if I'm using your lower tier 45 ACP or your subsonics or anything like that. 45 ACP is very easy to make very quiet out of a suppressed firearm. 9mm, if you make 9mm subsonic, you take away the factor that the one thing that makes it dump a bunch of energy downrange, which is velocity. The heavier projectile of the 45 ACP is what dumps a bunch of energy downrange, and that heavier projectile and slower projectile is what makes it ideal for suppression. The same concept. This was designed, 120, 30 years ago. The same concept is actually very, very similar to what we do today, except we do 223 and 300 blackouts. The idea of having a slower, heavier bullet that is easier to make subsonic in order to run through a suppressed rifle, it is something that obviously is still thought of and still chased. Suppressors are becoming more and more predominant in our society as people are realizing that they are not only legal, but they are easier to get than you think. All you have to do is pay a tax stamp and sign up for the registry, and as long as you're not a hardened criminal or working for the mob or, a disgusting agent of some federal bureaucracy, you'll probably get your suppressor. Now that I'm thinking about it, if you work for the ATF, could you approve your own suppressor forms and have like as many suppressors as you want? I'm genuinely curious about that. Would you be able to approve your own background check if you were working for the FBI? One of those things that you kind of scratch your head over. Anyway, there are a lot of negative sides about the 45 ACP cartridge. As a self-defense carrying cartridge, I would have to say it's obsolete. But due to the aspects and the design and the different variables of the 45 ACP cartridge, I'd say that there are definitely some applications still out there that put it above what is out there on the market at the current time of production. This is 2021. Maybe something will come out down the road and it will absolutely blow the 45 ACP out of the water. But having a slow, heavy bullet oftentimes is very useful whenever you're wanting to suppress things, especially in comparison to the counterparts, which are not so easy to make happen while also retaining the amount of energy that will be dumped downrange. Now, that being said, let me go ahead, because I don't have a suppressor on this thing, I'm going to throw my earmuffs on. Hooray! Look at me go. Now I'm all safe. I got my earmuffs and my eye protection. People tell me all the time that glasses are not eye protection, but they don't realize how blind I am. And whenever I show them the thickness of these lenses, they're like, holy crap, that could probably survive a nuclear blast. I'm like, yeah, this is literally more eye protection than you get with designated eye protection. I'm very blind. I'm very, very blind. Speaking of blind, let me go ahead and turn on my reticule here. Let's see what that looks like. All right. Well, the battery's still good on this thing. I got the same battery I've had in this thing since I bought it, and that is mighty impressive that it's still up and going. I'm just going to send some 45 ACP lead downrange. I'm just going to fire our steel silhouette. I have a grand total of 5 rounds inside of this magazine because ammunition is quite expensive. Not only that, but there's no reason why I need a lot more than 5 rounds downrange at our steel silhouette. let's go ahead. Actually, I want to hit the water with a 45 just to see what kind of splash we get. So, wow, that was a pathetically little splash, but I'm also used to shooting it with like 54 rimmed. That would be, if that was like somebody on the ground and that was like a blood splurt, that would be impressive. Ooh, there's a shotgun shell over there. I'm gonna have to grab that. I don't want my lawnmower to find that down the road. Okay, let's go for the steel. Little low. There we go. Alright, I guess this thing is hitting just a hair low. But my god, is it still fun. 45 ACP, that's a lot of mass going downrange, but like I said, it is very slow. And this carbine is quite heavy, so as a result, the recoil is not all that intense, and it's actually quite pleasurable to shoot this thing. If ammunition wasn't, what's it at right now for like 45 ACP? I think it's like 60 something cents a round. If ammunition wasn't so expensive, I'd blast some more rounds downrange. But this was a good excuse for me to break out a gun that I have that I don't really put up on the channel all that much. The reason why I chose this one and not one of my other 45 ACP carbines is because, oh, okay, I guess I only have two 45 ACP carbines now that I think about it. One of them is a Thompson submachine gun, which is not something that you see suppressed all the time. But this right here is more of a modern take on, it's got modern aesthetics, that's what I'm trying to say here. Aesthetically speaking, it looks more modern, and seeing a suppressor at the end of this thing would be something that looks a little bit more pleasing, not necessarily pleasing, a little bit more commonplace than a Thompson that has a suppressor on it. Anyway, folks, let me know what your thoughts are down below. What other things can you say that would point towards the 45 ACP either being obsolete or not obsolete? There's plenty of people out there that I'm sure this video is going to rustle the jimmies of. If you ignore the facts and focus only on your own emotion, then you're doing exactly what the anti-gunners do, and you don't want to be that kind of person. So if you think that 45 ACP, you know, has more stopping power than 9mm, 20 years ago you were right. Nowadays, I'm sorry, but you are in fact incorrect. There's a lot of good and bad sides with 45 and 9mm. Definitely by far the greatest aspect, or the greatest thing pointing towards 45 not being obsolete, is its capacity for suppression while maintaining its ability to put a lot of energy downrange, because it does not have to lose a lot of velocity. 45 ACP relies entirely on mass, unlike 9mm, which relies a lot on velocity. Not necessarily mass, because it's still a 9mm cartridge. Anyway, I am rambling like I always do at the end of my videos. Subscribe to the channel for more. I do this kind of stuff all the time. If you like the video, actually like the video, that helps out with the algorithm. I feel like I should get something heavier and do way more damage to that water, but perhaps I'll do that on another video. What else? Description down below, lots of links, lots of goodies. I have an email list now for anyone that's interested. Link down below in the description. I don't know what else to say here. I never know how to really end these videos, so I'm just going to say, let me know what your thoughts are down below, and go off, have a fantastic day, and thanks for watching. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.